Yep, you read the title right. Online for many, many years, you find people saying they find it impossible to gain weight or they try to eat as much as they can until they feel full, but they're not gaining weight. And what is the one bit of advice you see every single damn person giving to them, right? Eat more. You've got to eat big to get big. Eat more. You're not eating enough. Do you think that is going to help someone who feels on the verge of being sick and has probably a bad relationship with food because they try to eat so much? Of course that isn't. And that is why this bit of advice is outdated and it is old. And we want to welcome in the new, which I'm going to present in today's video, right? When someone says eat more, or you're not eating enough, or you need to eat big to get big, how do you think that helps someone who is really, really struggling to eat lots of food, or who can barely hack 2 meals a day, right? That's simply not sustainable, and if anything, it's going to put them off wanting to bulk and gain muscle even more, which is why I'm going to present to you the new bit of bulking advice that is going to make waves. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. So you're probably thinking, but Ryan, don't we need to eat in a calorie surplus to bulk? Therefore, you do need to eat more. You do need to get big. Those people aren't eating enough. Don't get me wrong, you have a point. However, it's not the best way to approach it. As I said, do you think telling someone to eat more of something that they can barely eat is going to help them? Of course not. So this is where thinking through the opposite comes in handy. And in other words, this is called achieving through the opposite. And this way of thinking and problem solving is where this bit of advice basically comes from. And this way of problem solving comes from a mathematician, Carl Jacobs, who once said, invert always invert. And that basically means the answer is in the opposite, right? So in this situation, when someone says eat big to get big, or you're not eating enough, or eat more, right? Or, you know, stop being a pussy and eat more, right? There are some really extreme things people say, right? We need to find the opposite in that because it clearly doesn't work with most people, right? So what is the opposite of eating more and eating big to get big, right? The opposite of that is eating less and eating as little as possible to get big. And this is the new bit of bulking advice. It's going to make waves. So let's take me and let's take Jaden over here, right? Me and Jaden, we both have to eat 3,000 calories every single day, right? However, there is a difference. As you can see on my palms, our calorie intake and the food we have to eat and we have chosen to eat is on our, you know, the different palms in the different plates, right? So this is the amount of food I'm eating and this is the amount of food that Jaden is eating. Who do you think is going to have a better time getting their calories down and being more consistent with their calorie surplus? Obviously it's going to be me, because you can see that there is way less food on my plate than that's on Jaden's plate. And this is where eating as little as possible to get big comes in, right? We want to eat as little volume and maximize the density of our foods as possible so we can basically do the absolute minimum to get the absolute maximum output. We basically want to keep our portion sizes as small in volume as possible and as big in density as possible. So we basically need to start eating smart, not hard, right? So many people think that if they feel full and if they feel bloated and on the verge of feeling sick, or if they feel like they eat lots of food in terms of volume, they will get big. However, they're eating hard and not smart, right? For example, one person can eat like a kilo of fruit and another person could eat like 200 grams of pesto pasta. Who's gonna who's gonna have more calories? Obviously the person with the pesto pasta, because the fruit is very low in calorie density, right? So it's not necessarily about how much you eat in terms of volume, it's about how little you can keep it so you can then eat more volume, right? So let's go back to me versus Jaden, right? So we've got our portion sizes here, and who will probably want to eat more food after they've finished their plate? Me, because I've eaten less food, therefore I'm going to have the desire and the capacity to eat more food, right? So if we focus on being smart with our meals, so not eating foods that are low in calorie density, and we actually eat foods that are as little in volume as possible and absolutely maxed out in density, then we are going to have more room to eat more food. Therefore, it's going to be easier to then eat in a calorie surplus. So it's not all about eating as big as possible, because sometimes someone can eat such a large plate of food and then they can still be 1,000 calories away from their goal, right? It's all about being absolutely as minimal as possible with our diet, so eating as little as possible to get the maximal output, and being smart, right? That is the new way of bulking. We don't want to be eating as big as possible, because why do we want to be making it as hard for ourselves as possible? We don't want to eat as much food as possible, because then that's going to make it hard to eat, achieve our calorie goal, right? And obviously we want to eat a lot of food. However, if you try and keep the portion sizes as minimal as possible, then you are going to be able to eat a lot of food, because you're keeping your portion sizes as small as possible. Therefore, you're going to be hungry for more and you'll have room for more, right? So I really hope you see where this is going, because this has helped me gain 10 kilos in 6 months on 3 different occasions, and has helped me gain 27 kilos over the space of 4.5 years. And I really hope that this can be the needle mover for you if you're really struggling with weight gain. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I've tried to keep it as short as possible, because I don't necessarily want to drag it on. If you have enjoyed this video and you're going to start to, live by this when bulking, then make sure you drop a like, leave a comment down below, and also if you want to stay around, I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, so a subscription would be appreciated a lot. And if you want more help beyond these YouTube videos, and if you want help from me personally implementing this bulking advice and seeing how you can actually use it for yourself, then I have a free community that's going to be the top link in the description. We have over 250 men just like you, skinny, wanting to gain muscle, and maybe spinning your wheels and not necessarily making the progress you want to, and I'm helping those men do just that. Here is a transformation of one of the guys in the community after being with us for around 7 months, and you can do the exact same thing, okay? So I'll be excited to see you in there. Thank you very much for watching.